Hello everyone and welcome back to Top of the Box, where some friends have gathered around the table to talk about some board games. And today we're talking about the games that are never going to leave our collection. We are never letting them go. They're going to stay with us until we die. And they might even be buried with us. Who can say?
You might have taken
Those of you who are new here.
I did then, but that's fine. Carry on.
No, well, you know what, Ross? You just got to commit sometimes.
I hadn't realised this is what I was signing up for. When you said pick some games, Ross, that you will never leave your collection, I didn't realise that I was also committing to, if someone ever buries your body up, you were going to be clutching these games in your skeleton hands.
This is Pharaoh rules. You take your stuff with you so it goes with you into the afterlife. Anyway, as we said, that is Ross. I'm Luke.
Hey.
Hi. And yeah, we're just talking about our games that are not going to leave our collection. We've limited ourselves to 3, but with some honourable mentions of some stuff that we're probably not going to get rid of as things go. So do you want to hit us up first, Ross, on what's not leaving your collection? Honourable mentions.
Honourable mentions, sure. I mean, all of my honourable mentions, they kind of all come under one big group, which is games which I've had for quite a long time, that I used to play with my family and with friends and stuff, and introduced other people to the things. So a lot of my honourable mentions tend to sit in that thing. So I can probably smash out quite a few of them, to be fair. In fact, I think 3 of them kind of fit in a similar kind of category in my brain anyway.
Okay.
Mysterium, Seven Wonders, and Codenames.
Yep. Yeah. All classic games, all
big
great
player games. I mean, you could probably even squeeze Sushi Go in there, as I've literally just thought of that off the top of my head as I've said it. But they're all like the games which I've had for a really, really long time, and yeah, that's kind of what's got me into gaming. So I have more, I don't know, guilt over having them leave my collection, I guess. I've got a couple of others, but you want to throw some my way as well?
Yeah, I mean, the games I've gone for, as I'm looking over at my list here, I've gone for kind of 2 main categories of these honourable mentions. There's the big, pimped-out versions of the games, or the games I've really invested my time and money into, that I could probably sell them, but it would be a lot of effort to do so, and they're games I really have loved, so I've put the money and effort into them. Yeah. And there are things like the Quacks of Quedlinburg, where I've deluxeified I've got capsule tokens to just cover them up. Wingspan, I've got the big box on it and some really nice 3D printed birdhouses to represent the action players. What else have I got over there as I look at it? Terraforming Mars, where I've got that big 3D printed board. So, those sorts of big pimped out games. And then the ones which sort of fall under a collection or a group or a family of games. So things like the West Kingdom series.
Yes.
I really like all 3 of those games. 2 of them were 2 of them were Y1 and 2 the last time we did our top list. The other one was in the top 30. I've got the collector's boxes of each of them. I've got all the expansions for them. I've got most of the content for those games. Final Girl is another one where I've got so much of the content behind it, and it's just a game that I don't really want to get rid of. But I think also it's pretty safe to say our favourite games are probably not going to leave the collection anytime soon. There are some exceptions to that. Woodcraft was one that I found that I really enjoyed. Woodcraft the first couple of times I played it, and it sat in my favourite games. I think it was in my top 50 for the last 2 years or so. And it just dropped off because I played it a 3rd or 4th time, and I just kind of like, okay, I've seen everything here. I still really enjoy it, but I don't need to play this anymore. Yeah. Which is a shame, but also gives you an opportunity to bring new stuff in.
Yeah,
so that's kind of.
I mean, I had the same sort of feeling playing it when we last played it, to be fair, as well. So it was kind of a. The other one that just popped into my brain is slightly less party, is Small World as well, which again is a game which I've had for a really long time, and I don't really play that. I can't remember the last time I played it, to be honest with you, but I'm trying to think now. I generally cannot. But I just couldn't part with it. There's a few rarer games as well in there. So this would be stuff like Ladies and Gentlemen, which is a bit of a silly game, but much harder to find a copy of. I had another one in my head and now I can't remember what it is now. It'll come back to me later. So there's a few in there which are kind of... no, it's gone again. No, it's gone. That bugger. Sometimes my brain just fails me. But so there's a few others in there. Now, interesting things I was going to mention were 2 games which I thought, if you'd asked me a couple of months ago, wouldn't be in my collection and have in my collection. One is Battlestar Galactica, because I never got around to playing it, and it's a rare game, like I just indicated. But I wasn't playing it, and it seemed silly that it was just sat in my collection, not playing it. I have other people who own the game, so they're like to play it. The other one as well was Santorini, which I always thought would be quite a good lightish game or quick game to have him play. Quite like the theme of it, quite like the production of it. Kickstarted it. I took Santorini to Santorini, so there was some sentimental value to that as well, a little bit, I guess. There's a few games which I was surprised by that I kind of got to the point where I was a bit like, I don't need these anymore. They're not really serving a purpose in the collection anymore, and I am only holding on to them only for that sentimental value a little bit more than anything else, or because I think one day I might play it, and actually I could probably source it from elsewhere if I wanted to.
Santorini is a funny one, because that was one that I thought I wouldn't get rid of either, because theme, mechanisms, and all that sort of stuff. But Laura didn't really like it, and you had it, so it was kind of like okay, we don't need to both have this. There is a small overlap in our collections, but for the most part, we kind of keep them a little bit separate. But for whatever reason, Santorini, Laura didn't like, so it was like, okay, fine, I'll move it along. Ross has got it, it's fine. And now you've got rid of it, but it's on Board Game Arena. So it's not the end of the world kind of thing. But let's have a look at what games we think it would be the end of the world to get rid of with our number 3. So my number 3 on this one, I'm bringing back the so's when we do a list, is, I think it's a game that is aesthetically beautiful, but is incredibly simple, and it covers so many different mechanisms that you could do to teach a lot of different players too, like new players too. You can just teach them all these different things. And that's Sagrada.
Good choice.
Sagrada it's just a really simple dice drafting and placement game where it's put the dice down, it can fit in any of the spaces around. You're trying to fill in a stained glass window of the Sagrada Familia, and that's pretty much all you're doing. You're just trying to put the dice down, manipulate them, make a nice pattern. And this could fall under the pimped out versions of the games, I suppose, because I've got a lot of the expansions, I've got the folded space insert, but actually it's just such a nice game to play. It's light enough that you could play it with anyone. It's colourful, it's bright, it's really easy to set up and just go to people, this is what we're doing, here's how this game's going to work. But we sat down, you and I played Sagrada not too long ago, and your son was sat next to us. We gave him one of the windows, and he just took dice and put them into the window to make it work.
Yeah,
it was great. He was enjoying himself. He's 3. Like, you could literally explain that game to a 3-year-old. It's just like, just make the colours match up.
Yeah.
And he did it. He really enjoyed himself. So, it's a really calm game. I mean, I've got a picture, I'm looking at it over the top of the camera, of the Sagrada, what's it called? The, Meeple Design artwork. That's the word I was looking for, jeez. Poster that it sits on my wall. And I love it. It's a great picture. And it's just a really good game. I've got Sagrada Artisans that I won in a raffle that is now sat upstairs, the legacy version. I'm really looking forward to playing that one now that I've got my kick of legacy games. I'm just like, oh, let's give this a go.
Yeah.
And exploring that and seeing how that plays out. So I'm really excited by it. Sagrada's not going to leave because it fits so nicely into that niche of a game that's just going to be so easy for future generations.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got one, my number 3 is kind of sort of maybe in a similar vein, which is Cartographers. So, again, so easy to teach people how to play, almost universally loved when we do teach and play it, particularly to new people. It's got that kind of very loose, but some expansions on the top of that, so it's got some replayability because you can change up the maps. It's got a solo option as well, because I was kind of thinking about this, if this were, I know this isn't quite the challenge, but what if these were the only games I could play, right? If I kind of lost everything on that front. So, I just kind of ticked all those boxes for kind of similar reasons. You said slightly less pimped out, maybe.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got the collector's edition. I can see that over your shoulder, so that is at least some of it. But yeah, I love Cartographers as well. I think it's so good because you can play the base game with anyone, and then people that have played it before, you can just go, here's a different map.
Yeah.
let's see where this goes. There are certain elements of the Cartographer's universe that have, well, the games that have come out, like Heroes. I didn't really care for the Heroes cards in that game, but they're kind of a modular expansion. You don't have to add them in.
Yeah.
So often, you would draw them out, and then after that, a monster comes out, and it doesn't really quite work out. But hey, it's a flip and right. It can be played in under 30 minutes. It's great. So that's numbers 3. So let's go to number 2.
No, my actual number 2 is I've put in as Lisboa. So I've gone.
Really?
Yeah. So I've gone from
Wow.
very light to very heavy, and this is kind of how I was. Again, I was probably reading too much into this when you set the brief for me, Luke, and you're like, "Hey, this is what we're talking about." I was like, "I'm going to pick a lighter game, a medium game, and a heavier game." So maybe part of spoilers for what's to come, but probably not. If anyone's literally ever watched any video that I've ever appeared in, you probably know what the last one is.
I knew what your
I
number
probably
one
should have
was.
just led with it in the first place. Done it in reverse order. Anyway, so Lisboa. So I've got much a heavier game for that, and I think actually what I'm doing is I'm sort of saying Lisboa, and I think Lisboa is the top of my Lacerdas, but I think it's interchangeable with kind of any of potentially whatever the best. After I've gone through and have played, we just talked about challenges, spoilers, but so if I go through and I play through all of the Lacerdas and one of them happens to be out Lisboa as my favourite, then it might take this spot for the top one. So I guess I'm reserving a spot for that rather than for Lisboa specifically. But yeah, I really, I like a good crunchy game that offers a good crunchy game and the theme that I enjoy, artwork that I like. I know you don't, but I like the simplicity of it. And so yeah, that's kind of just it's earned its spot just for that. It ticks the right boxes in that category for me, I guess.
Yeah, and that's fair. It's I don't dislike the art. I don't find the art as beautiful as you do. Let's be fair. And it's a solid game. It's a good little one. It's
a good little
not
game.
One I'd necessarily. Sorry,
you said it's a good little one, which made me laugh.
It's a good little game.
Small footprint, small game, definitely across the way.
Yeah, no weight in it whatsoever. It's so simple to pick. It has no sentimentality for me, but I know it kind of does for you, because you've had good memories of sitting down playing that with your dad, playing that with me, and sort of seeing how that sort of game plays out. And my number 2 is a game that has a lot of sentimentality for me. So much so that it became part of my wedding in quite a significant way, and this is Carcassonne. So Carcassonne, everyone knows Carcassonne. If you're watching this, you know what Carcassonne is. We don't need to go into this too much. You'll have played it at some point. It's just a game that I have adored for a long time. It was one of the first games that you introduced me to the hobby with. It introduced me to the meeple, introduced me to the tile placement of the... This is a board game. Here is how the board starts. 1 tile. Are you sure? Does this fold out somehow and make a bigger thing? And it just works really nicely for me. Yeah. Laura got me the big box for Christmas this year, which has 11 different expansions in it, which is phenomenal. Yeah. And space to put more in. I'm looking forward to trying Ghost over Carcassonne. Or Miss over Carcassonne, that's the one, the co-op version. And getting that and giving that a go and adding that into the game and trying it with all these different expansions. And just one day I'd like to sit down and play with every expansion, just mixed in, and just going through a mountain of tiles and seeing how that plays out. But Carcassonne has such a deep love for Carcassonne, and it's one I played with Laura, it's one I played with my parents, it's one I play with a lot of people when it's like, here's an introductory game. Introduce us to a board game. Here's Carcassonne. There are 5 basic rules of what things do. This is how you play a tile. This is how you would score points. That's kind of where I went with this sort of thing, was just this is a game that has huge sentimental value for me, and I'm not going to chuck it away. And the thing about it being part of the wedding, it became our guest book. The copy I'd held for 7-8 years, a game that I played with Laura a bunch of times when she was getting into the hobby, it became our guest book, and people have written on the tiles, and we're going to mount it and put it up on the wall somewhere. We need to figure out how we're going to do that, because I'm sure some of the tiles will be in weird positions.
Probably,
but we'll make it work. So yeah, that's
No,
it for me.
that's
My
good.
number two,
Yeah,
Carcassonne.
and we've had this conversation a bit before where Carcassonne was really popular for me. Has kind of just fallen out of favour a little bit for me, but I can absolutely see how you could have, you know, those feelings tied to it, right? It makes absolute sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. That's number two. So let's have a look at our number one. My number one is another one which is pure based on sentiment. It's not my favourite game. And honestly, it's probably not even in my top 50 anymore. I think it's dropped down quite a significant way. But it's the game that got me here. It got me to a point of making a YouTube channel where I talk about board games because it's something that I love to do. It's got me talking to people across the world and playing board games with them remotely, or going to conventions to play games with those people because I've met them through this hobby. And that is Tokaido.
I've been waiting for you to mention it, so I should have assumed it would be number one.
Yeah. Tokaido is a very straightforward game with a really nice theme of just having the best time going on a trip through Japan and doing various bits and pieces as you're going on that trip. Japan has a huge sentimentality to me anyway because my grandfather loved it. I've never been. I'm going for my honeymoon. It's going to be fantastic. And Tokaido was the first modern board game that I played. It was one that you introduced to me back in 2015. And it's one that's never left the collection. I think I bought it almost immediately after we played it. You know, and that got me on this journey that's ended here in this conversation. I would call it a cathedral of board games, except I've got this, this
they
town
are like stained glass windows
bird.
Almost behind you. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just made this journey such a big thing, and it's introduced me to all sorts of different people out there that I've been playing games with, that I've spoken to on Twitch streams, I've spoken to at conventions and hung out with, and just shared a good time with. Yeah, and that's hard to beat, really.
It literally was. It's just the door that was opened up into board game and role playing as well. To be fair, because I think it wasn't far of a jump really.
It wasn't long after that.
Like, here's a board game. Oh, also there's Dungeons and Dragons that sit off the back of this that you can play. It's not just board games.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean it was. I think it always. Oh, I'm gonna get really emotional. No, I think it always surprised me that how quickly you latched onto games off the back, particularly off the back of that game. We'd play. I set up that board game club at work just because I wanted to play some games with people, and I'd kind of lost my board game group, and I'd moved further north, and so it was good that at least one person off the back of that, I think there were others, but at least one person off the back of that really latched onto it, and subsequently has created our friendship as well, right? So
you're the best man at my wedding.
I think probably out of all of the board games between both of us, it probably tops everything really on the kind of sentimental value, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
except possibly the one that you're about to
read. No. I see, my copy is obviously sits right here, which is the copy that you played, which got you into board games, and it is battered as hell, so it is well loved. Like you can see the corner here is literally ripping. I can see it now. I need to see if I can fix that somehow, but yeah. No, I mean my my number one is not going to be a surprise. Is Tapestry. Yeah, the reason why it's in here, it's not even necessarily a sentimental thing. I don't have a very cute or wonderful story to tell like you've just done there, but it is the singular game that I've played the most, I think. Beating even ridiculously games like, I don't know, Codenames, which I probably smashed out like 2 or 3 plays in one go, but I still think I've probably, part digitally obviously, but I still think I played quite a lot more of Tapestry than anything else.
Yeah.
It is the game that I have pimped out the most. I've got the playmat, I've got all of the expansions, I've got the insert, I've done it as much as I can do in that front. And yeah, it's just one I've played it. I think literally my next game I complete, from when I started collecting stats over the last few years, it's going to be like my 150th game over the last year and a half or something, I think like that, maybe, something slightly more. I feel like I could just endlessly play it. And I will always, even at 1 a.m, which is the running meme, start a game of Tapestry if I get the opportunity to. So, it's I don't see it dropping off this list, off my like top of games list or anything like that. It's probably going to stick there for a long haul.
Yeah, you're right. I should have gone first. I should have let you go first because my sentimentality was better.
Yeah.
But no, Tapestry is a fantastic. It is a really good game. I think my love for it dropped off because I played it so much, and I think I just had enough of the way it was being played. Just playing it on Board Game Arena because I played it a lot on Board Game Arena.
Yeah.
And I think for a while we kind of flip-flop between do we want to play this physically, do we want to play on Board Game Arena because of the updated rule set. And there were some balance issues. We all, it's freely admitted that there are balance issues with this, which is why there's been a whole new upgrade pack of Civ that have come out, which I've now bought for three different people that are now sort of floating around. So there is the support to it. There's been 3 different expansions, and that's it now. It's now fully is in its final form, effectively. The only thing I'm surprised you haven't done is you haven't got someone to 3D print you the bases.
Yeah.
So that you could snap those onto the bottom.
Yeah, sort of annoyingly, I set up the insert. So the insert you can configure it one or 2 ways, and I configured it the way where you don't have the bases, which means I'd have to pry the...
Buy it again.
Or whatever. Either pry it all apart or buy it again to then do the insert in that way. But I don't know, I quite like... I mean, it's a bit silly, but I quite like just hunting through whatever it is, the 25 different minis you have, and just trying to figure out if this 2x2 is vaguely different from this other 2x2 building that you've got. It's a little mini game, right? In and amongst.
It's kind of fun, it's good fun. So those are the games that are never leaving our collections. We've got them locked down for the rest of our lives because they're for sentimentality or just because we like them so much. That's where they're going to be, and that's okay. What are some of the games that you are sentimental about? What are the games that have hung around for you, or will hang around for you for the rest of your days? Because I know some people will hang on to that classic card game that they play for the first time in 1972 that will just stay with them for the rest of their lives. Or you'll pick up a new game that is like, well, this is it. This is it for me. This isn't going anywhere. This is what's going to happen. And somewhere, someone's getting a new game that they're just going, yep, this is what it is for me. I'm never getting rid of this. And that's kind of beautiful. It's always good to see. Nice. And this hobby does so much for so many people, and it just brings them together in that way. So thank you to everyone out there who's played games with us or done any sort of interaction with us on this content, or in real life, in fact, because some of you we have met in person, and it's been nice. So, hey, that's that. If you like what you see here, you can do the usual things of like, subscribe, ring the bell if you want to get notifications of when these things come out, and we are going to try and get to some sort of a regular schedule with them. Okay. Until next time, thank you very much everyone for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.